Welcome to Ratio Scale Modelling. This is part 11 of Airfix Avro Vulcan B.2 scale 1272. In part 10 I made up the landing gear, placed them in, as well as the hatch covers. In part 11 I'm going to be making the bombs for the Vulcan, as well as painting the wing and the fuselage into its main pattern. So let's jump into this. Now onto the bombs, and as you can see here, I'm just salvaging them together to bond them. Now there's a grouping of 3 for the bottom part of the bomb assembly, and the top ones are single units. They're painted in Avro 154 insignia yellow, but there was a little bit of a problem with that. I'll explain in just a moment. But first of all, it was fairly easy to assemble these, apart from the actual bracket themselves that hold the 3 bombs together. They're a bit thin and they can easily snap off. I did actually break one, but it was easily fixed and I was able to put it back on. I should also point out at this stage as well, the bombs that I'm going for on this model are not necessarily the bombs that should be going on it. I should actually be putting on the nuclear missile onto this variant of Vulcan, but I decided to put in the rack of bombs because I think they look better instead of just the plain white missile. And with having the section in a cutaway state as well, you wouldn't get to see the missile at all, because that would just be off the plane, off the gate. So I thought it'd be better just to put in the actual bombs so that you can see something inside the bay itself. The next set of bombs are worked in the same way, but these are in sets of 4 and not 3s. They're painted with the same 154 insignia yellow. Now the reason why I painted on the yellow first is because it does have a little band of yellow around the bomb, so that's what the yellow is for. So I just cutting a bit of masking tape off. Now this is my masking tape jig as such. I've shown it before, and it's just a strip of masking tape on it, and I'll be cutting down the line to pull off a thin strip. And once I've cut this thin strip, I just take it off with a pair of tweezers, and then I wrap it around the actual bombs themselves. The one I just put up here is the one I've just actually broke it. But as I said, it was easy enough to repair. This is where I ran into some problems though. I couldn't get the masking tape to sit comfortably and flat around the actual curved area of the bomb. It was always going to be a bit of light bleed on it, and no matter how much I tried, I just couldn't get it to go flat. Ideally, I should have cut the masking tape in a curved setting, which I do have a jig for to do that, but I never thought about it at the time, and I still may have had that same problem. So in the end, I discarded the masking tape and tried to paint it freehand. However, I still couldn't get it right. It just did not look right. So in the end, I decided just to paint it all in the one colour, which is Rebel Aquacolor 361 olive green. On some of the pictures I noticed that some of the bombs are two-tone colour, others are just plain green with the yellow band. I couldn't really figure out which colour they should be. So in the end, I just done it all the one colour. The white bracket holding the bombs together is painted in Umbro's 130 white satin, and it was a simple case of just painting around the area. Next, I'm going on to the ladder, which leads up to the access ladder or hatch, which leads up inside the main cockpit, and this is getting painted in Umbro's 154 insignia yellow. So that's the ladder and the handrails both getting painted in the same colour. The final part of the assembly of bombs is fairly simple. They just stack on top of each other, as I said. You can see the bracket that connects to the bracket on the 3-part bomb, and then just push in. You shouldn't have much of a problem there. So now it's time to take away the masking tape on the sides of the plane. I'm just getting it prepped for painting at this stage. And then a new piece of tape goes on, but this time it goes on where the white is, so I'm protecting the white borderline. And once that's on, well, before that goes on, I should say, I'm putting a coat of clear on it just to protect the paint, and I won't get any paint left when I take the tape off. Of course, you can desensitize your masking tape as well to stop this, but sometimes that can leave minute hairs on the tape. So while that's drying, I'm going to be placing in these bombs, and each bomb goes, the cradle goes into the corresponding bracket in the bomb bay, and like the bombs going together themselves, they just sit on it. There's a couple of little notches on these areas for you to rest the brackets onto. So the cradle's got a tiny bit of another little plastic, and it just sits onto it. Make sure they're dry before you move it though, because it can move even if it's just in a semi-dry state. So make sure it's 100% dry. And now the varnish is dry, I can put on the new piece of masking tape over the white, so I'm protecting the border of the white line. And then once that's on, I will be putting another coat of varnish on it to make sure it blocks any paint from bleeding onto the white. Try and do a thin coat of varnish. You don't want to build it up too much, or you'll end up with a hard ridge where the tape is when you pull it off. That's something to keep in mind. And it's back to the bomb bays now, and this is the hatch covers. There comes in two sections. It's a simple case of bond them up. The inset part on this section, you can see there's three of them, corresponds to the location points on the larger section. Make sure you get them the right way around. If you look on the instructions, you'll see a slight pattern on the unit, and that goes on the inside. So make sure that you get that right. And this actually forms a lip, which makes it easier to place a part in situ. The inside hatch cover is painted in Avro 87 steel grey, and this is the access hatch that the ladder will be getting attached to. And back to the hatch for the bomb bay, and this just fits in. There's not a lot of room here for it to fit in. You may have to bend it slightly to get it in, or even trim it down a little bit. There was just about ½ millimeter out for it to fit properly, but it's at the end of the day a nice tight fit. I'm only putting one on, of course, because the other side is the cutaway side of this. Then it's back to the access hatch. First of all, the ladder goes on, the main part of the ladder. Now this ladder is angled slightly, so make sure you get the proper location points for this, and it's going to be sitting on the plane at a certain angle. It should be around about a 90-degree angle coming down from the actual hatch, well, the opening itself. I'm also at this point putting in some of the access covers here. Well, these are like air brakes, but I'm having them closed. You can have an option for them to be open, but I'm just having them closed. And then it's time to put the handrails onto the ladder. Now these sit directly on top of the ladder. They can be quite tricky to fit. There is location points for them to sit into, but they're so faint and small, you may find it difficult to see where they go. So I'll just zoom in so you can see it a little bit better while I put the second one on. As I said, they are quite difficult to fit. Try and be gentle as you can. I was quite lucky with this one. It just landed into exactly where I wanted it to be. But the other one took a little bit of time to get into position. Attaching it was fairly simple. You just had to make sure that you got it into the right angle. The hinges fit in quite well into the recess points for it to connect, but the angle is the most important thing here. Next I'm going to be placing on the little aerofoils and probe things that go on. I'm not exactly sure what they're called, to be absolutely honest with you, but it's these little pointy things at angle back or right angles and so forth. There's actually not that many to go on. Sometimes with these airplanes there's lots of them to go on, and you might be better putting these on right at the end because it is easy to knock these off as well. You know, so I'm taking a bit of a chance putting them on now, because there's a good chance I'll be knocking them off, because you're still constantly handling the model. You do have to be careful not to do so and catch one and break it off. Next I'm using Formula 560 canopy glue to fill in the hole here that generally has a clear part. Also they do provide you with the clear part. It's just easier to fill it in with canopy glue, which dries crystal clear like a wall, like a window. And now it's time to fit the tail fin, and it's fairly easy to fit. There are brackets for you to place it in. These parts at the bottom here that you see sticking down, they just push into the brackets on the fuselage. Now again, like the other parts of this plane, kit that I'm building, because it's a cut-off, there's not a great deal area for this to adhere to. So make sure it's completely dry before you go on to the next stage. I will say though, the tail lines up really nicely here. They got that spot on. If the fuselage was full and complete, I would imagine it would just drop in and slide in without any issue whatsoever. And like the bottom of the wing, I'm putting in the air brake covers here. Again, you can have them extended if you wish. So I'm going to bring part 11 to a close now. I was hoping to get onto the painting, but if I do, I'd make it a very large video. So it's a good place to stop here. All I've got left to do now is put a couple of the probes on the centre part of the fuselage. Again, I'll probably knock these off, but I'm putting them on now. Then lastly, it will be just to rescribe some of the panel lines. So I'm just taking my scriber and running it through the panel lines, just making it a little bit more sharper and easier to see when I'm painting them. If you haven't done so already, why don't you check out the channel for the rest of the videos in this series for the Vulcan, or indeed the other videos on the channel. If you subscribe to the channel, you'll be notified of my future updates, including for this build. Hit that like button and of course leave a comment. But for now, thank you all very much for watching. Bye bye.